Hi, ADHD family. Welcome to another episode of ADHD Love Parent Talk, where we talk to different guests, either parents that have ADHD, have children that have ADHD, or experts that come in and just talk about all things ADHD. And the whole purpose of these talks is just to help you have tools to put in your toolbox so you can take them out as you're moving through your ADHD journey. So today I am very excited to have my guest, Bri, and I'm going to have Bri talk a little bit about herself because she has a very fascinating story. So Bri, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So please tell the audience a little bit about your background, and then why do you know so much about ADHD?
Yeah, so I'm bad at being brief, but I'm going to try. So I was just diagnosed with ADHD just over a year ago. My husband was diagnosed as a child, and my 17-year-old daughter is in the process of being rescreened. So that's a story for a different day. But we own a small construction company. Prior to that, I've worked probably 50 different jobs, bouncing around to all kinds of different things, except for one period of time, I taught outdoor school and worked as a marketing coordinator for REI for almost 10 years. So that's my one career before I started a business, a real business,
I guess. Funny. That is too funny. Yeah. So what were you actually diagnosed with?
So I was diagnosed ADHD combined type.
Okay.
So, yep, heavy on the hyperactive, but there's definitely plenty of inattentive, forgetfulness packed in there too.
Yeah, see, what the audience doesn't realize is that we talk about how we rock back and forth.
Always moving.
That's too
always
funny.
Moving.
So, so once you found out about ADHD and having it, how did you feel about that?
It was a roller coaster for sure. Initially, it was a relief. It was like, oh, everything makes so much sense. I'm not dumb or bad at life. It kind of clicked. And the first thing that I said was, I felt like I've been trying to start a car with the wrong key all these years. Gotcha. So I was really excited to have the right key finally. But then I got hit with waves of grief because prior to my diagnosis, there was this feeling of like, well, I just wasn't taught how to do these things as a child or whatever. And so I just thought if I worked harder and learned the right skills, the things that I wasn't taught previously, then I'd be in good shape. So the diagnosis, the grief piece of it came from the fact that like, gosh, this isn't going away. Mm-hmm. And so does it matter? Does it even matter if I work hard? Is anything going to change? And then I've been able to work through that. So it's been kind of an up and down ride, but kind of landed on this is who I am and I'm grateful for me. So.
Very cool. So you are diagnosed with ADHD. We know your husband is diagnosed with ADHD, and then you are a parent. So how do you manage all of that? You know,
we have a good time around here. I think, gosh, that's a really trick question. The three of us work together really well. We understand each other and our quirks, and we all, even though Brax and I both have a diagnosis, he's inattentive, so our strengths are different and our weaknesses are different. So that works well because we're able to kind of complement one another. And fortunately, my 17-year-old has been more of an adult than me since she was 4. So she's always kind of helped things. But we use a lot of different tools around the house. You can see behind me a whiteboard. Yes. Yep. We have whiteboard magnets, so like dry erase magnet strips on our refrigerator, as well as a small whiteboard. So we have notes everywhere. We use alarms and timers everywhere. And we just, our life, all three of us really have just been evolving and adapting and trial and error and finding the tools that work best for us.
Nice. So for those who, since you've gotten diagnosed later, what is your advice for those who just are not sure if they should go for it?
And getting diagnosed, you mean?
And getting the diagnosis. Because some people, there's so much stigma around ADHD, as you know, and some people are really nervous about just getting that diagnosis. They may have children that have ADHD, so that makes their decision, or they may have, someone that recognizes it in them, but they're just not sure if they should go for it. What is your advice around that?
I think the long and short of it is the more we know about ourselves, the better off we are. So being diagnosed doesn't give you ADHD. If you have it, you already have it. And I think the other thing that people are faced with, they feel like, oh, well, if I get diagnosed, then that means I have to go on medication. That's also not true. So the more we know about ourselves, the better. So if you have questions about something about yourself and there are professionals that might be able to give you answers, absolutely seek those professionals out for sure.
So, and then in the different lines, so you again having the full family, well, like you said, you're not sure about your daughter yet,
Yeah.
but what is your advice in terms of just managing? So you talked a little bit about having, tools to help throughout the house. And are there any other, advice in terms of just being able to manage a day-to-day on a day-to-day basis?
The biggest key for me to success has been self-love. So for a lot of years, I found myself, and I know that anybody with ADHD can relate to this, just constant negative self-talk and beating yourself up. And it's this vicious cycle of you have days where you're not productive and you can't get things done and you fall behind. And then that just decreases your motivation and it makes it worse. So you just get in this vicious cycle. And when I was able to finally step back from all that and realize, wait a minute, my worth isn't tied to my productivity. And if I have a crappy day in the sense that I don't get everything done, or I'm not accomplishing, at least perceiving, as much as the person next to me, that doesn't make me bad. And when I was able to let go of that and separate those two things and recognize, like, I love Bri. I enjoy my company. I'm funny. I'm fun to be around. I'm compassionate. I started recognizing the things that I'm good at.
Yes.
That was separate from productivity. And it made it so much easier to just suddenly like, oh, I can do things, and the pressure's lifted. And it's kind of like you walk around for years with this just super heavy weight. And so you can't get things done. And even on the days you have motivation, you're just drowning. And when you realize that you can swim and then choose the things to work on around you, you can just keep swimming even on the days when you don't get a lot done. It's okay.
Oh, that is awesome. And that is so powerful. I think one of the struggles that people have, I mean, outside of the stigma, is just the negative approach to it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I just did a video on this. It's a struggle. It is. It can be a frustrating struggle and it can be a frustrating
Constantly.
journey. But at the same time, once you get it, you realize, man,
Yeah.
there's all these absolutely wonderful things about ADHD. If I can
Yeah.
just figure out how to work it to my advantage, it is a beautiful
That's
thing.
right. Yep. Well, and that's, I think you saw this post recently. Braxton said to me the other day, what would life be like if we didn't have ADHD? Because it is a struggle. And some days it's a bigger, more painful struggle. And I responded to him, I can't think about that because I do have ADHD. So when that thought creeps into my brain, I just shift it to what parts of me would I lose if I lost ADHD?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So let's shift a little bit. So you're an entrepreneur.
Mm,
And, there's a lot that's going on with being an entrepreneur. Some people who are not don't really understand all the pieces and parts that are part of owning your own business. So my first question is, well, you said that you're an owner of a construction company. Can you tell us a little bit about
yep.
that, what you do?
Yeah, so it's Brax and myself, and we have several subcontractors. We specialize in luxury outdoor structures and luxury renovations, so kitchens and bathrooms, additions, pergolas, pool houses, that kind of thing. We do build new homes some, but we don't do that a ton. And so we've been in business. We've been self-employed since 2012. Brax started his first business then. The two of us have had Odin Construction since 2016, so we're approaching our 5th year. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, but you're right. There are so many moving parts and no accountability except us.
Yes, yes. So how does ADHD play in all of that?
Yeah, so I read a statistic one day, and I'll first say, as Talladega Nights says, 98% of all statistics are made up, right? But I read a statistic that said that ADHDers are 300% more likely to become entrepreneurs.
Mm.
And I think that a couple of things that play into that is, one, we're impulsive, typically. And in order to be a successful business owner, you have to act quickly. You have to be able to just be decisive and go for it. And so that doesn't always play in our favor, but we're always taking action and you just keep moving forward. The other thing is, as an entrepreneur, like you said, because there's so many parts and pieces, you don't have time to get bored. There is always something to work on. And if I'm struggling sitting in a computer all day today, then I can head out to job sites and work. There's always something to be done. If I'm in hyper focus mode, then okay, I have a list of things that I know that if I'm in hyper focus mode, let's pick one of these. But if I can't sit still today, then all right, let's head to job site and get some photos for social media or for our website, or do some networking or whatever the case may be. So at least our business is really conducive to the struggles that someone who has to sit at a desk all day with ADHD might face.
So how do you keep everything organized? I mean, for somebody, as an ADHD person, that's one of the things that's tied to us is the organization piece. Sometimes we just don't do it very well.
Nope.
So how do you keep things organized?
We don't always. And I think that goes back to the self-love piece. If we didn't own a business because we weren't good at being organized, then we certainly wouldn't own a business. But we had to recognize that we just have to do the best we can. We're not always organized. Our files are not in order. We're slowly getting to the point where we can outsource some of that work. So with a bookkeeper or CPA, but up until that point, it's just constantly evolving. Like, let's try this file system. Is that working? Heck no. All right, so let's try this. Braxton bought a plastic container to keep in his truck to keep receipts in. So it's just always about progress, not perfection. But we do, whiteboards are our best friend. In our previous office or house with an office, we had entire walls of whiteboards. So it's just constantly evolving and accepting that we're good at construction, we're good at communication, we're good at client experience. We're not the best at organization, so we just do the best we can until we've worked to a point that we can delegate or hire that out.
Nice. So if somebody wants to become an entrepreneur and just feels like they can't do it because they feel that it is I don't want to say it's a weakness, but it's a struggle. What would your advice be to them?
Do it. I talk about it all the time. We have this fear of failure constantly. It weighs on us, but you can only fail at something if you're trying. So if you're failing, that's a good sign, in my opinion. That means that you're trying new things. It means that you're still pushing forward. Not everyone is good at everything. So, and specifically for entrepreneurs, there is not an entrepreneur on the planet, ADHD or otherwise, that is good at every aspect of their business. It's just not real. So we are not at any disadvantage having ADHD of owning a business than any neurotypical person. We're just better at different things or worse at different things. So my advice is always go for it. If you have a passion or you're being pulled to do something, do it.
And then, like you said, one of the things that's important, and that's regardless of who you are, you play on your strengths.
Yep.
You fill in the gaps with other people when you just don't.
That's right.
If you don't know how to. For me, one of my struggles, I do not edit very well. Right, very important documents. I can write it, but I have to have somebody else edit it. And I used to do that. At my previous job, I would send it off to one of my coworkers, and then they would read it. If it was really important, they would read it through and correct it, and then I would send it out.
And you hit
whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta.
And it's not always, I think a lot of people have this feeling that, I can't afford to outsource, or I can't afford to hire someone to do this work. And I get that. We've all been there, and hell, we're still there in some cases. Sorry. But there are incredible communities of other entrepreneurs. You have friends. You just have to kind of know your resources. Can you barter? Is it, I'm good at, I don't know, like I said, communication. I'm good at writing emails or writing documents. So can you say, I tell you what, I can help you with X if in return you can edit these documents for me? Or could you come in and help me get my books in order? This is a wreck. And heck, initially, maybe it's I'll clean your house, or I'll cook you dinner for a couple of weeks if you can help me out. If you want it badly enough, there are people out there that are willing to help, and they need help in return too. There's some awesome communities out there for entrepreneurs.
Ooh, I like that. That is really good. All right. So just to round everything up, so is there any type of resources that you have used, be it for just ADHD or for owning your own business, that you can share with the audience? So whether it be books that you really like, or, YouTube channels, podcasts, anything that you can share.
Oh, I have a list a mile long. A book that was life-changing for me, it's not related to ADHD, but it's Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass at Making Money.
Yep.
And my guess is there are a lot of ADHDers who struggle with money stories, because for people who may have been like me, bouncing from job to job or not really knowing what you're supposed to be doing or whatever, can kind of tie into the idea that you're not supposed to have money or you can't have money. So rewriting those stories, literally life-changing for me. I mean, just incredible. Another thing that's been really powerful is anything to do with gratitude. If you find anything that has the word gratitude on it, dive in head first, because the sooner you can get your brain to function in gratitude first and abundance mindset first, everything else falls into place. But as far as podcast, Brene Brown, if you're familiar with her, I feel like you probably are.
Yeah.
Unlocking Us is an incredible podcast. The very first episode is called FFT, and it stands for effing first time. And she just talks about how to rewire our brain to recognize that the first time we're doing something and you're not going to be good at it. And us ADHDers really need that reminder. How to ADHD on YouTube. Her videos are incredible for somebody who's trying to learn more about their brain. Gosh, I could do that all day long. And then therapy and coaches. Get a coach, get a therapist, and then get a coach. Find a way. I think all of us, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to have something wrong to need a therapist or a coach. We all need backup. So that's my
What do you say to those people who are like scared of therapists, right? They're like, I don't need this person.
I battle that, growing up in the South, I battle it truly daily now within my family. If you sprain your ankle and it hurts for more than a week, you're going to go see a doctor. Your brain is the most important organ in your body. Why would you not take care of it the same way? People focus on exercise and drinking water or eating the right food to make sure your body's in good health. Your brain is your most important organ. Yes. Take care of it. You don't have to be broken to take care of it. Think of talk therapy specifically as exercise for your brain, right? It's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So any last minute thoughts, any last minute tidbits, anything we didn't cover that you want to share?
Everything for me comes back to gratitude and self-love. And I shared this yesterday on my stories. Your worth is not tied to your productivity, and you don't have to earn self-love. You don't have to do something special to be worthy of loving yourself. Work on that first, ADHD or not.
Very nice. Very nice. If they have any questions or wanted to just DM you, do you have the contact information that you can share with them?
Yeah.
Handle for Instagram, for example?
Absolutely. So I'm the house that ADHD built on Instagram. And the same thing, email, the house that ADHD built at gmail.com. And I'm always happy to chat because we're not supposed to do life alone.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Bri. Thank you for joining the Parent Talk this episode. I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.